I will just say this: Fear is the team you love to hate, or the team I hate to love. Yeah, no, that sounds way better. The
Okay, there
team I
you
hate
go.
to love, because like I love the way that they're playing, but I hate the way that they think about playing.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Salt Mine. This is Season 3, Episode 6. I think we're fully caught up now on where we're supposed to be. I'm putting my full faith in that Season 3, Episode 6 designation. Still brought to you by Aegis Esports. Shout out to them once again and the Aegis Champions League for their sponsorship. Appreciate having them on board still. I'm Gordo. I'm joined by TDS the Slayer for a little bit more of a classic episode this week. So we're going to keep things back to basics. Talk a little bit more about the NACL, about week number... What did we just finish? We finished week number 6? That would keep in tune with
Yep.
what episode we're on.
We did.
Usually we're at one episode number further than what week the NACL is on. But this past week, or several weeks ago, we skipped an episode. So now we're in sync with the NACL. So that tracks. That tracks.
It was all planned for that moment.
It's true. It makes it way easier to know where we're at, assuming that I know what week the NACL is on, which I've just demonstrated I don't. But we'll get there. We'll get there eventually. Or we won't. We'll restart next season. It'll be fine. Yeah, so let's kick things off. We had an interesting last week. Was the last of those weekend super weeks where there's 3 matches each Saturday and Sunday at the regular LCS times. LCS is coming back for week number 7, so we are going to be going back to 2 matches a day, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's chat about those matches that we just completed here. Let's start things off with Player of the Week. I haven't actually thought about this at all yet, but I think it's the best way we have to start off conversation. Do you guys... Either of you guys have a solid candidate for Player of the Week that comes to mind immediately?
I feel like it's a half cop out, but it's also half playing the math here. FlyQuest played 2 matches, obviously. I mean, like, so they played a little extra this weekend, and they do go 4-1 in those games, and they win both the series, including solidifying themselves as undefeated champions. So I feel like somebody on Fly Challengers has to be the Player of the Week, and looking across how everyone performed, I'm kind of deadlocked between the 2 main carries. I think we saw a lot of creativity out of both Quad and Sajed in their 2 series. I mean, Sajed played everything from like in a Felios game where he AFK farmed for 30 minutes and then just deleted people to playing some Varus. He had a Smolder game where he also accomplished, similar goals, staying alive. I thought his lethality Jhin game was actually pretty decent, despite the fact that they do lose. That's the one game they lost. I thought it was pretty good.
TDS Jhin mentioned. He's losing it here. Yeah. TDS and I have been covered a lot of League of Legends the last couple of weeks. He's sick to death of Jhin.
Yeah, well, I don't see as much Jhin, so maybe that one stuck out to me more. But I also thought Quad had some great performances. I mean, I don't think I don't know if he died in the AOE series. I'm gonna be straight up. I mean, I know for a fact that he didn't die in the first game, which he played Cassiopeia, and then he had a pretty flawless Orianna game. So it's one of those 2 for me. I'd honestly just accept anybody on Fly Challengers if you gave me at least a half-assed argument with their weekend.
Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't even mention the Sajed Zaya game in Game 2 against Maryville. That was
sure.
That was like my best Sajed game of the weekend. I think that one was. Yeah, that one was really really good too.
I blank on arguably his best game. I blank.
Yeah, I am tempted to pick Surdy. Just taking all Fly games in collection because I think Surdy's like the biggest difference maker in the AoE Fly series because he is just crushing Zamudo that entire series, especially on the Darius in Game 1, where he like I love that the casters called it out, by the way, is like Zamudo was the solo kill leader in the league, and Surdy like entered the series. It was like Zamudo was at like 11 and Surdy was at like 7, and over the course of the first game, Surdy catches up. Just solo killing Zamudo over and over again. He even gets a 1v2 in there at one point. Yeah, so that was pretty wild. I think that's a good case to be made. If we want to skip the pick a fly challengers player cheat code, I can make an argument for Keel. TL only plays that one series up against Mirage this weekend that goes to 3 games, but I think Keel is critical in both of the wins. I think his Belveth in game number 2 is a really, really big deal, especially when like the rest of the team is not really showing up in that game number 2. And his game number 3, he plays the Vi, and I think is pretty critical in that one as well. So I think you could make a solid argument for Keel. I still think he's like the standout player on that TL team that has been struggling so much for so long. Yeah, I would give it to him.
Good pick. Yeah, I feel like those are fair ones. Actually, like not trying to go for the Flycy, because if I go Flycy, mine is Quad. I think Quad performed the best in general. Just really like how he's playing and really good showcase of his abilities in general. I was thinking on Maribel's side actually, because yes, they lost against Flyzy technically, but I honestly was really impressed with Niall's performance this week. I think he was one of the main linchpins in the Flyzy matchup. I think he didn't allow Surdy to do as much as he probably would have liked, and even won in a couple of situations. And I think he's just been one of the best performing top laners in general. Like for Maribel, it's more the talk for Scary Jerry, Juji, and Spyrax. But this week, I just feel like Niles was there at every point of the games, and he just is performing at a really high level. I really liked what I've seen so far from him.
Yeah, I agree. I think like Niles like stands out in my mind. I've said it a million times, but I think he's just a player that really understands his like role, right? Like he's on whatever he plays a wide variety of picks, some of them more unique to him. Like other people are picking up the Gnar now, but he's always been like the bigger Gnar guy. But yeah, he's like whether he's marking people on Gnar or buying space on Cassante or like pushing and roaming on something like the Rumble, he's like really, really I think flexible in that way, and I think he does everything. He'll play very different ways depending on the picks, and I think that's really, really important and really valuable from him. I think if this Maryville Fly series taught us anything, it's that like these teams are so much better than the field. I think by a fair margin.
Well,
they have this close series against each other that goes to 3, and then they both play other like mid to bottom teams the next day in Lit and in AoE, and they just roll them over each individually. It's a fun little package that just happened to play out that way this week.
Maybe Supernova is the closest.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I am biased, but I will put Supernova in the outside contention bracket.
I agree. I think they're third, but I think they're like solidly third. Like I think Maryville and Fly would be S tier, Supernova would be A tier, and then nobody else would be out of B tier for me.
They did beat up on a struggling team 2-0 themselves as well.
They did.
So
they certainly did.
We're playing the standings game, but I would argue that roster-wise, they beat the best of those teams that got 2-0'd. But I don't know. I'm sure we'll have a lengthy conversation on that team and where they're sitting currently in the standings.
Yeah.
It's disguised, if anyone isn't curious who I'm referring to here. It's disguised.
You know, we can have this disguised conversation right now. I mean, this whole purpose is to be a bridge to talk about whatever subjects we want.
I feel like we're just sounding like a broken record at this point. I mean, is it not the same? Is it not the same shit that we've been talking about for 2 weeks now? They kind of just reimagined against a better team.
Not quite, because they finally started doing what I wanted them to do, in that they've started giving Manui his picks. Manui plays Seraphine and Hui this week. And they still fucking suck. So it's not fixed. It didn't help. They've taken my advice. So this last week's on me, because they did exactly what I told them to do, and they're still not winning. Granted, it's against Supernova, but still.
I would frame it as not improve. Like it's not like it's the same thing we talked about. It's more so that it's the same thing we talked about, and it's worse than what we talked about. So it's even worse than it was before. That's the issue with DSG there. And like technically it's only up from here, but like they have 3 series remaining, I think. They have 2 next week, which is against direct matchups.
Competition.
Yeah, because if they lose any of those 2, that pretty much nets them in
They have
the
3 more
Well,
series.
relegation zone.
Like you said.
They quite literally play 7, 8, and 10 right now. That's the rest
Exactly.
of the season.
Yeah, so
So-
if they lose any of those 3, that's relegation bound kind of to a certain degree. Like it's really difficult to not see it like that because Mirage only has DSG and FlyC that pretty much confirms them, not standing wise, but like power wise. And then Lid and AoE have kind of the easiest ones. So there's still a chance for them to do it. But DSG has to win 2 of those 3. I don't think they can win only 1. They have to win 2 of the 3 to be sure that they don't get disqualified. And if they are able to get to playoffs, then I can see some light for them. But like this matchups, I don't think I wasn't expecting this to be the case for DSG at all at this point.
Yeah. I mean, when we're talking about those tiebreakers coming in towards the end of the season, I think AoE is safer than they appear at first glance, just because they have won a lot of individual games. They are at, so for reference, right, AoE is 2-4 at 7 wins. Lit is 2-5 at 5 wins. So Lit has played an extra series and still won 2 fewer games. So like, unless they have like a big, if they stay tied with AoE, they are like very behind. And if they win games to get above AoE, then yeah, then that means that DSG is still losing, and then it gets easier from there. I also think AoE will continue to, like, I don't think they're going to win 0. Even if they lose out the rest of the season, I think they will continue to win other games. AoE still plays DSG, like we said. They still play Wildcard, where I expect them to take some games. And they play Fear, who have gone to 3 games in every single series except for this past week where they got 2-0'd by Wildcard.
Yeah, so are we gonna... Are you gonna apologize to Wildcard here? Or
I guess I have to, right? Like Yanni took whole clips out of last week's podcast of just me exposing myself, like just explicitly me saying I don't think Wildcard's gonna win any more matches, and if they do, and then talking about the Fear series and explicitly saying, well, it's definitely going to 3 games. There's
yeah, surely I'll at least bank off that logic, right? Nope.
No. So. Yeah, I don't know. That was a weird series. I mean, to be fair, Fear were sniffing the Nexus in game number 1. I
will just say this. Fear is the team you love to hate. Or the team I hate to love. Yeah, no, that sounds way better. The team I hate to love. Because, like, I love the way that they're playing, but I hate the way that they think about playing. And it's just like, please, there's 2 things that you need to do. Just don't over commit for something and kill the Nexus. And they did that a couple of times, but it feels like they make the game harder for themselves in a lot of situations. Like against Wildcard in the first game, there's absolutely no reason why that game should have gone like that. But they see something that needs to happen and they make it happen, even if it's the worst decision ever, and they take it confidently, which I respect. But at the same time, it's not smart and it's not going to work out 60% of the time. And they lost the game out because of that.
Yeah, that series is just wacky. I mean, we had this discussion last week a bit about what team would you label the most streaky team. I confidently believe it's Wildcard. I confidently believe, because they just have guys on their team that can, like, they're gonna either win out their lane hard with like a really cool pick, or they're gonna int their face off. Which has happened both, like, multiple times. Like, as much as I love Quacker, you know, he had those like first week games where he was like proxying dudes waves on Darius up like 1.5K gold at 15, and then some of those games he just disappeared. And you know, Darkwings, he gets labeled one of the most underrated players in the league, like maybe the most underrated mid laner in the league, and he shows why. But then you also have games where like he picks Orianna and he just doesn't have impactful shockwaves, and if you're not doing that on Orianna, like, you're gonna lose a series. And that's why they lost like games up against Fly Challengers, where they could have actually, like, they could have won purely off the back of Aaron Smolder BS, one of those games. And who knows what that series looks like then. But yeah, they're just streaky, man. And I would like to point out that they are 5th place, and I seeded them there. Once again, I'm here to say that. Good victory lap that one a bit.
Balanced, as everything should be.
True. Yeah, we'll see how they close out, because they do still have to play AoE and Supernova.
Yep.
But yeah, yeah, I don't know. That's
confidently 4 and 5, baby. I'm calling it. I mean, they're just gonna they're just gonna land 4 and 5.
There you go.
Well, pretty sure if Wildcard wins this week, they are secured, right? Because there's already 3 in with Fly, C, Maribel, and Supernova all in. So I'm guessing if Wildcard win, they end up 4-4. I don't think they can go below the remaining teams because the maximum DSG can do is 3. Same for, well, actually, AoE can do a little bit better than 3. So maybe not. They need to win 2 more.
I have not done the math, but I feel like this is a vibe. This is not a guarantee.
Yeah.
But just looking at the standings and the matches yet to be played, with how many, like, Lit is still going to play against DSG, AoE is still going to play against DSG and Wildcard. Wildcard's going to play against AoE, and Mirage is going to play against DSG as well. Like, they're all playing each other, so I feel like if you're at 3 wins, I consider you safe. You're not mathematically safe, but I think it's a pretty safe bet.
Are we talking away from relegation or for playoff? Well, I mean,
that's the same thing,
I guess.
Yeah.
I think 4 wins confidently slots you.
4 wins, I think, confidently slots you in. I think even 3 wins
as well.
Like, I'm not thinking that Wildcard's like a true candidate for relegation. I think relegation, in my mind, the relegation race is between Lit, Disguised, and Mirage right now.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. I would put AoE just because technically they are also in the 2.
They are also at 2 wins. It's their game record that makes me.
But it's the fact, also the fact that they have 3 remaining series. So like, even it's the same as DSG, but they have 1 game advantage. So like, as long as they win 1, they are 3, and they have 2 remaining games to just bump up their game score, which can make a difference. Like you're mentioning.
Yeah, like for reference with AoE, right? They have played the same amount of series as Disguised and have 4 more game wins. Like, it's just stuff's gonna, like, head to head does not matter. So it's like, unless Mirage plays 2 more series, Disguised plays 3 more series, unless they get 2 wins each. Like, unless Mirage sweeps the rest of their season and or Disguised win 2 of the next 3 series, neither of which seem super likely.
No,
it's
not.
gonna be one of them is against AoE, right? So like AoE would have to lose out on their next 3 series, and Disguised would have to win all 3, or Mirage would have to win both to like get them ahead in, like, you need to beat AoE on series record, because you're probably not going to beat them on game record anymore. And that's why I consider them safe. I think it's just so unlikely that I don't even know if it's got to be mathematically possible, because they're not highlighted in green, and I trust the people who edit the wiki over anybody else.
True.
But
also,
it's so hard. Like, so much has to go wrong for AoE and right for Lit, Disguised, and for 2 out of the 3 of Lit, Disguised, and Mirage for AoE to end up down there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm also feeling we kind of have to discard Mirage actually after watching their schedule, because like they're 1-6 and they have only 2 remaining games. So they play DSG, but like, once again, we talked about this as well in one of the previous episodes. Their last match is against FlyC. So like, they have to beat the best team, and they have to beat their direct opponent, which I think they can beat DSG. The problem is that they have to beat FlyC as well and depend on other results, just because of game score and also the amount of series that they have against them. I feel like they are pretty much doomed at this point.
Yeah. Well, the question you got to ask yourself too is, I almost feel like here's what you cling on to if you're a Mirage believer, right? It's like DSG looks dysfunctional as shit. Like, they're really spiraling. These guys do not look great. I think they will pick up at least a win against either Mirage or Lit this week. If I were to bet on it, I would say that I think Mirage and Lit will be the relegation teams. But
that's fair.
We'll see. It's going to be based on how Disguise does this week. But if you if you don't believe it, it's easier to not believe that. Like you could sell me on DSG as a relegation team, and you could sell me on Mirage beating DSG, especially because it feels like Mirage are kind of starting to find their groove a little bit. They take that game up against TL this past week. Like I think it's very transparent, but I think they kind of have a recipe where they can win games where it's like they play the like super aggressive mid jungle duos like the Jace Brands of the world and stuff like that. Like I think that's Will and RJS are their best performing players right now. Alorum's a very good performing player as well, but Alorum needs to play a tank every game.
Yeah.
I don't know why he like in the past in tier 3 Alorum has had like these pocket picks like the on hit Nico and the Urgot and stuff where like he's been willing to bust out carries. Yeah, like the Trundle counter pick against the Olaf. Like he's had split pushy carry stuff that he's been willing to bust out before, even though he's mostly the weak side tank guy. He's like not played any of that this season. Like has Alorum played a single game this split that is not on a full tank character?
I mean,
maybe I think
I'm checking. He's played Udyr, Ornn, Cassante, Maokai, Sion. He played one game of Gragas where I assume he played AP.
Okay.
And then
yeah, I kind of remember it. And it was the only good part.
Yeah.
And
his
it was
Cho'Gath
a good part, by the way. I kind of remember the Gragas game. It was the only good part out of Mirage Alliance.
Yeah. His
My guess here
his
is...
Cho'Gath goes AP too. We've seen his Cho'Gath before in like ACL and stuff. So he played one game of Gragas, one game of Cho'Gath, probably built a fair amount of AP on each of those. Other than that, he's been all tanks.
So my first guess here is that I think he has to play more tank duty than before because he has to put extra attention to protect Prismal. Because
maybe
I to a certain degree I honestly don't care at this point because they've looked really bad and Prismal has to be the worst AD carry at this point in the league. He's not only like positioning wise but damage output I feel like has to be one of the worst from any AD carry. And I'm discounting the Twisted Fate from his last game where honestly I don't know why they put him on the Twisted Fate. That has to be one of the lowest damage dealing Twisted Fates I've seen. But apart from that, like I think Alorm just has to do extra duty to allow for his AD carry to actually be able to play the game. And that puts even more pressure on him to deliver on that, which I kind of understand why. But he's also the best part of your roster with Will. In my eyes, I think Will and Alorm are the two best players in Mirage, and you're kind of putting a bit of too much pressure on just one guy trying to make the rest of the team be able to play the game, which is way too difficult.
Yeah. I agree with that analysis for the most part. I did just check. Prismal has the lowest DPM of any bot laner in the league. So you're spot on there, TDS. He is second lowest in damage %, and that is only because Sejed is lower. That should be.
That's actually a great way to yeah, like the funny part about that is you know why both of them are.
Yeah, it's very different reasons.
One, yeah, but like, the like worst part out of this, or the part that kind of puts even more pressure on the fact there is. You can see, and I remember the scores with the eye test that people were laughing at. You have the eye test to see what players can play great and what not, and all those things. But like you can with a legitimate eye test, you can see that Prismal plays in a way that you don't want any AD carry playing, and Sayed plays in a way that you want your AD carry playing. Because even when he doesn't deal full damage in a lot of fights, he still is there for the crucial moments. I cannot say the same for Prismal. And the difference between the two of them is one is a rookie and the other is a veteran, which I find perplexing in a lot of ways.
I still, it sucks that we rehashed another conversation. And I know we talked to Norm a lot about what was going on with this Mirage roster and the switches. It's still, I still believe that like it's just people are not playing the roles they should be playing in the NACL for maximum optimization of this roster. Prismal, I'm gonna give him somewhat. I know he's still not playing well. I'm still gonna give some of a pass. He wasn't coming into this season thinking he was gonna play AD carry. He thought he was gonna play support, right? And I would rather have him at support. I still think I'd rather have Dardoch in a tier 2 level playing jungle than playing support right now. Like I still believe that. And yes, we know that the scrims are not going well with Scooped, and maybe Scoop wasn't the right fit. I still think that, you know, you plug maybe not even Scoop, some other AD carry that we could storm up in that spot and at least have Dardoch and Prismal in the spots that they're more confidently able to perform on. This is a bit of a better season, and I believe that, and I haven't had any indication differently from what we've talked and what we've seen.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. I mean, certainly some of the guys that we see around, like NACL qualifiers and stuff, feels like could have given some glances in that direction, maybe.
True.
Yeah, if you're gonna make the swap, I mean, that's the thing. It's like Will was a great pickup, and I think that's evident by how well he's been performing. But I do agree with what you're saying, mostly Slayer. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been rough. The root of my point is you can get like the early game stuff for RJS and Will. Alarm's going to play a tank no matter what, and he's going to do well on it. And then you got to get Prismal like Ezreal or like Jhin, where he can be like either more supportive of a position or really like, have his own self-peel tools for if he gets out of position.
I don't even think it's just self-peel, because not even Saya has been that great from Prisma. Like, it has to be specifically Ezreal Jhin, it feels like.
Yes.
It's also doesn't help that the meta is at a point where self-peeling AD carries are getting weaker and weaker compared to some of the more stationary AD carries that provide extra utility, right? Or utility. You think about who are like the most prio picked bottom laners right now. It's Ash, which I'm going to count as an AD carry because you can still play her there as well in a lot of comps. Varus, like TDS said, you know, you get that extra utility. He has build flexibility. Callista, you know, you do technically have utility. I've seen people pick Callista purely so that an Ashe doesn't get deleted every fight because you can ult the Callista or ult the Ashe and save her. And even TF right now is there because he has utility, not mobility, to back himself up in those fights. And those are some of the ADs that I'm seeing prio the most. So it doesn't help that, you know, you're picking those self-peel ADs, you're also inhibiting your impact on the game on the current patch, in my mind.
No, also Senna. I was thinking about
Senna
one
too,
more. Yeah, Senna. And the counter argument for that is Smolder and Aphelios, but I think like those are the two biggest outliers. Not because like they cannot carry, but because they take so much longer, but they are a pretty secure way to know that you can win the game. And it has to be pretty specific AD carries, by the way, because yes, a Smolder does have like a pretty big pool to try and win you the game, but we've seen Smolder on the wrong hands not delivering. Same for Aphelios. So I do think that they are very specific picks in certain scenarios, not compared to the Varus, Senna. I would say Varus, Senna, and Callista, probably the three big that I would kind of point out to being the case there.
Yeah. So
and
go ahead, Slayer.
I didn't know where you were gonna go. I didn't know if we were gonna pivot towards.
I was just gonna say, so the root of all that I was trying to get to was like, I feel like Mirage has a recipe to win sometimes. It doesn't work 100% of the time, but like they're at least kind of finding some footing. You could make an argument for their ability to beat DSG. And then the thing about their last matchup against Fly Challengers is, especially with Fly taking down Maryville here, and the fact that they play Supernova the day before, so that's probably where most of their week's prep goes. Assuming they come away with a win over Supernova, they may very well find themselves in a spot where they have locked first by the time they play Mirage in the last series of the season.
Yeah.
So, you know, it depends. How much do you think the Fly C guys value the, how much do you think the Fly C guys value the perfect season, right? Like, do they care substantially about going 9-0 versus 8-1? I don't know. You know, that's kind of a question. And then how much do they care about like keeping certain strats secret, because they will be week 8 will be their first week on 14-5, which I believe they will also play playoffs on. So will they have like, you know, will they be keeping stuff secret? You know, there's an argument to be made that Fly Challengers in that last game against Mirage will not be the strongest version of Fly Challengers possible for all those reasons. So if you're trying to cope for Mirage, I think that's how you do it.
However, do we think Fly's Challengers treating this series like a solo queue, like the equivalent of getting reps in? Do we still think Mirage would be able to beat them? Is that disrespectful to ask, or am I like...
Maybe to both of them, really. Like, I'm sure FlyQuest would tell you we're trying to win every series. You know, we want the perfect season. Who's to say?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I don't know. I tried to do in my head like a way where like Fly C would have to play for it, but the only way is if they lose to Supernova, which I don't think is impossible.
Or like if they drop more random BO1s. Like if they drop random individual, if Fly Challengers drops like a random individual game to Supernova and Maryville 2-0's TLC and Maryville, then maybe they need the game wins to still end up above Maryville.
That's the math I was doing, is that they have a 1-game lead right now.
Yeah.
And let's say that Maryville 2-0's both TLC and Fear in their final two games.
So they're
17-4. 17-4, and then Fly C drops 1 to Supernova, and then
so now they're 16-4 then.
Yeah, so they would have to. So at that point, they would have to
beat Mirage.
They would have to beat Mirage, and make sure. Yeah, they'd have to beat Mirage. I mean,
because if they lost, if they go 17-6 by going 1-2 against Mirage, that puts them below. Oh, but then if they go. If they go 17-6, losing to Mirage, then they would be below Maryville because they'd both be 6-1, but Maryville would have the better percent.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that's a conversation we can have
coming into week 8 when we have more of an idea of what's going on.
I don't know how much actually more of an idea we'll have though. I mean, I guess
we'll know if Mirage is out or not by that point. Actually.
Yeah, we will. We will. To kind of like. Not that I'm trying to breeze through our talk about last week, but this was, in my mind, like the most chalk week of NACL based off of how we thought it was going to go, besides like 2 series. Like,
agree.
We all thought, and chalk doesn't mean like boring. I want to clarify that, because we all thought Fly C Maryville was going to be great. We all thought Fly C Maryville was going to go 3. And that's what it did. You just whatever side of the coin you thought it was going to play out on. And then you had like you talked about some teams we can breeze past, like Lit. Yeah, sorry, you ran into Maryville after a loss the day before. Like you're gonna get pounded. I'm sorry. Like I don't. That 2-0 came across. So now it doesn't make relegation a really interesting spot. I kind of circling back again here, but if you are Lit or Mirage and you can dodge relegation here and give it a disguised, I think you're over the moon, because I think if one of Lit or Mirage in their current roster form stays up, the 2 teams that I think will come in, I think will immediately be better than that team.
The big deal is, like, as the new teams to the league, Lit and Mirage, like, we talked with Norm about this, right? Like, such a big part, I think, of NACL is, like, you qualify, and then you got to survive your first split. Because if you survive your first split, you unlock your roster, and now you can go, like, who's underperforming? Who's the best player in NACL queues that didn't make the league?
Yeah, you can supernova it.
Yeah.
You can supernova it.
Exactly, you can supernova it. So, I know for a fact Norm is going to do that. Lit seems to have a little bit more of a camaraderie on their organization, you might say. Like, I think they would be more they would want to keep their core, at least. It would shock me if
they'd want to keep their solo.
It would shock me if Lit like did a full over like 3+ member rebuild, whereas Mirage, I guarantee you, will do a 3+ member rebuild if they stay in the league. They are going to change a lot, and maybe get Neo back.
That would be the best thing for them, because Neo looked amazing in the T3.
Maybe
so like
that's the
he
secret.
Probably
like maybe Norm needs to just buy Neo a plane ticket back from his trip to Vietnam.
He just needs to be
just
back
be like,
for,
brother,
for
you are already on the roster.
Tournament.
You are
Not
on our subs. Yeah,
yeah,
you're like already on the roster. It's not a. It doesn't break any rules because he's already a registered sub. Just call Neo and be like, dude, I will buy you a plane ticket back from Vietnam. Please, just come play in the promo tournament.
Just save us for now, please. They just need to go for that. I'm glad that relegation has evolved enough that there's no more scenarios because like I know you American guys don't have the relegation scenarios that the rest of the world does with football, but like
Oh,
there's
I know
one.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
I mean,
one that is really
I watched the
funny
Prem
actually.
TDS, so
Okay,
I know.
then
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'm not sure if you know if Slayer knows this one then, but there's one about like 10 or more than 10 years ago, before 2010. There's one relegation fight where a team in the top of the table actually technically loaned or lended two of their best players to the relegation team so that they could survive the relegation. That's not allowed anymore. But they actually did that, and they were saved thanks to
Little
that. The two best
TSMTL
players actually carried
situation.
them.
This happened to the
Yeah.
LCS too.
Yeah, what the
Exactly.
hell?
So like, I'm glad that it's evolved so that that doesn't happen anymore. But I remember those relegation scenarios where just to get the best player, the double lift one, where they just TL got double lift and that saved them. That's the sort of scenario that I'm glad no longer happens. But those were hilarious when you were just a spectator.
Yeah. And, this is as good a spot as any to kind of talk about relegations a little bit, just because I'm seeing the takes come through on Twitter, especially before last week's matches were going on, where people are like, wait, TLC and or DSG, and they're still saying it about DSG, might relegate. Like, this would be so bad for the NACL to lose these teams and all the notoriety and money they bring. And it's so funny to me because it's like rehashing the same dialogue we were having about franchising like 6 years ago with the LCS, where it's like I feel like people have, and some people may have come in a little bit later, right? Maybe they weren't fans back then. But there's definitely people who are like completely like just rehashing the LCS franchising arguments, where they're like they seem to have forgotten that relegations was not like this perfect silver bullet that is a litmus test for good orgs, where they have this boogeyman of the bad org who's like Dignitas or Immortals, just camping the spot, not really trying. This is why we need relegations, and they forget that like Team Liquid went through relegations, CLG went through relegations, and then like had relegations still been occurring in the modern LCS, like 100 Thieves could have been there some years, FlyQuest could have been there some years. Like there's you're not in exactly. It's not this perfect system that your favorite orgs are never going to end up on the wrong side of. That's not to say I don't like it. I think it's overall good, especially given how Tier 2 has been historically, with actually giving opportunities to players that need them. It's just funny to me. It's just very funny to me to watch like people start to rehash those same takes about like the risk of DSG potentially getting relegated.
I'm excited for this guy still co-streaming the relegation tournament.
Oh my god,
that would be kind of funny to see.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm only for that,
Anybody like, see, my problem is with those debates, right? Is like, on the other side, there's always the option with relegation where you can just go, where you could say like, to counter those people who are like, oh look, like this is pointless. The same orgs are the ones that are dumping back down. They came back up. It's like yes, but at least they have like power in, and they have power to keep themselves in. Like if you don't have relegation, you're sitting there talking about like, this goes back to the same sports argument with like tanking. It's like, I would rather have teams that bounce in and up out of relegation all the time, and like the storylines of that, and giving the power to these orgs to put themselves in the spots they want to be in, than like pure franchising where we're just stuck, and us as fans and like players and teams have to like just sit there and watch a same org perennially suck year after year, and there's no way to change anything. At least with relegation, there's always change. Like there should always be change. There's always be like a life to these leagues, in my opinion, and we just don't have to deal with any of that other bullcrap.
And it's like this NA Tier 2 tried everything else too, by the way. Like they tried everything. They had the 16-team NACL, they had Proving Grounds, and what all that shit taught me is that the LCS orgs just have no fucking shame. They just cannot they can get just absolutely ground to dust by teams that have peanuts for resources, and they will change nothing. And 5 Fire and Value will remain never playing Tier 2 and retire that way. way. So it's like I don't know.
But
I just have no
that's one of the
I have no
big
sympathy
things.
for it anymore.
That's one of the big things that I was like thinking about with the relegation and the franchising thing, comparing it to once again to American sports, the American sports scenario. And the thing is that at the very least with franchising, one of the big things and or from what I've seen and from what I try to understand, right? The big thing about tanking is priority for players, right? Because that's a big value out of the tanking part. It's the fact that you get the priority picks in the drafts. Right? I'm not wrong on that part.
Yeah,
I think.
in pretty much, most franchised American sports.
So
yeah,
the thing
but
is,
that can't
when
happen
you
here.
have exactly, that's the thing. You don't have that in League of Legends because first of all, there's no university ladder yet, so you cannot like form an actual draft system for it. And then second of all, teams are not interested in the drafting part. Tanking doesn't give you value apart from existing. That's the only value that you get by tanking, existing in the LCS with the current system. Whereas at the very least in those sports, you get some sort of value that can excite the fans, because once in a while you get the super hype prospect that you can get to see in your team, and you want to try and live and see how it happens, or the trading, which also doesn't happen in LCS because you don't get like good system for trading, and there's just and if you do trade, it's the same like recycle trading, like Vulcan moving to Cloud9, then to EG, then to Cloud9 again, then FlyQuest. Like there's no excitement in that sort of trading pattern, and the trade is always kind of better for Cloud9 and FlyQuest because they are the top teams, and then the other teams actually don't get the value in the trade. So that's kind of the thing that I just don't find the way that franchise can make use of that, because there's no existence on it. And at the very least with relegation, you force the way for the rookie. Like, yes, the rookie may be completely random, but he has a way of forcing things to happen.
Yeah. I also think, like, there's a recognizable pattern that just seems to be like, NA was the first region to franchise, and it appears that Riot has gotten better at selecting franchise partners over time. Just because, like, this isn't a problem that really has happened in the LEC, the LCK, or the LPL. Like, they have not had these issues with their Tier 2 formats. Especially, like, LCK and LPL are pretty dang similar to what NA has. You know, they have, or CB LOL has basically the old NA Academy system, and they freaking love it over there. Like, CB LOL, oh my god, I don't know who knows this, but CB LOL had their own vote to, like, I don't know if it was a vote or if it was just an option granted, but like CB LOL teams had the opportunity to drop their academy teams and none of them did it. Like they just they got that same chance that NA did, and where NA 7 out of 10 teams dropped, and CB LOL every single team stayed in.
Well, CB LOL has been one of the best ones to try and prompt up talent. Like, and this is funny because Brazil has much more of a culture with relegation because football is more popular there compared to other sports. But then you have the situation where they actually do like to bring up their talent. Yes, their talent may be washed in some ways, and that's fine for them. But there's also bringing up talent in a positive manner, and I think that's one of the biggest issues that NA face. It's not only the part where you're not bringing up your younger talent, but you're just kind of fed up with your old talent. Like we reached a point where the old talent people dislike because they dislike the fact that they are there and they haven't achieved anything, and then you dislike the new talent because they are not superstars immediately. So, and in comparison to CBLOL, where everyone that plays there is loved in every way. Obviously, there's going to be hate coming in from opposing teams, rivalries, everything like that, but everyone is appreciated to a certain degree, I feel like, and that's a big thing in NA. Like, we dislike everyone in comparison.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a cultural issue there. I completely agree. But that's getting pretty deep into the weeds. I agree with you, Slayer.
Yeah,
I think this last
sure.
week had too little to talk about.
I mean, I want to toot our own horn because, like, you know, a lot of things we thought was going to happen. So it puts it puts us in a hole. Yeah. It's not easy being right all the time, guys.
It's not easy. It's not, and like even the upset was like so weird. Like the wild card versus Fear. It's like it's bizarre how little I feel like I could say about wild card Fear. I don't know why.
The upset was that it wasn't a 3 game.
Yeah, that's the
That's pretty
surprise,
much
and that
it.
wild card one. I mean, that's a surprise to me at
That's
least.
true.
Uh,
Not Tiani.
not to Yanni, not to Slayer. Slayer's a wild card believer
No.
still.
It's true.
Well, I said on the last episode, I'll reiterate it. I am a wild card believer to an extent. The real team I will cap for the rest of the season and playoffs, and maybe a little too much, and not go off the reins a bit, is Supernova. Wild card, I was just capping for so much because everybody in the community thought they would be a relegation team, and I was like, they're not that bad, and now they're exactly where I put them. They're quite literally exactly where I put them right now, and they're probably gonna finish. What they play AoE and they play Supernova. I would bet they go 1-1. I don't know what the game score, and they finish 4-5, and that's probably gonna get them 5th or 6th. And I'm just gonna sit here like, hey, I told you
right
so.
in the middle.
It's fair. One other thing, before we get on to Aegis time, is OQs really quick. We're saving the OQs, boys.
Oh, yeah.
We're saving OQs here a little bit.
Superman.
Yeah, they were doing.
But
Yeah,
did everything we
Superman
could.
out. I did the Predator handshake meme with the third arm added in for us.
Yeah, that was
running
that was
the rift
a
and
certified classic.
salty run back. That should have gone more viral than it did. I put a lot of effort into that meme, but it's neither here nor there. For those who don't know, Rally Cry has announced that there will be 5 community streamers who will be covering the up to 4 simultaneous NACL qualifier games being played. They will finally be live streamed. They will be played at pretty much the same time as the NACL after LCS
It's
ends
fixed.
on the weekends.
Spectator fixed.
Yeah, so
Well, I guess it wouldn't have mattered for us because we're on TR now. Never mind. Keep going.
no worries. So there will be, and I mean, stay tuned to Rally Cry and Path to LCS and whatever our channel. I'm sure we'll retweet it on Twitter and stuff for where exactly you can catch which matches. But all the matches will be live streamed, which is great stuff. Good to have that coverage back. Good to have teams stop having to play this weird decision calculus about whether they want to be covered or not, given the risks that it would pose to them about giving up footage way earlier than it would otherwise be available because of how slow Riot's been with uploading the VODs. So all that stuff, really great to have a resolution there. And, you know, the hosts on this podcast are going to be all over that stuff. So basically how we expect it to work most weeks, TDS and I are still with Aegis through the ACL. So we will be on the Aegis stream most weekends, Aegis Esports GG, who also got accepted. But then we've been accepted as a podcast as well as the Salt Mine. So Slayer and Bonfire will probably be holding it down here most weekends on the Salt Mine Twitch channel at the Salt Mine Pod. So you'll get to see all of us on the weekends. We'll be covering different matches. Maybe on both streams we'll get some other friends in and out as the weeks go on. This stuff is all kind of progressing in real time, so we don't know exactly. But huge shout out to Rally Cry for bringing us on for coverage. Yeah, it's going to be a banger. It's happy to have the OQs back. Happy to have them saved.
Yeah, and the one thing I'd reiterate is, and it's been agreed upon with everybody in the within the 5 groups, is that we are all treating this as a community thing. Like, we are all looking to benefit as a collective of tier 3 coverage. So, you know, I don't mind. I know running the Rift also got accepted. Those are the guys that put all of us on coverage OQ1. And then I'm sure if, Aegis didn't get Lotus's games, Gordo and TDS probably would have been covering games on Running the Rift again for Swiss. That's where I was covering games for Swiss. So, I'm sure we might take some, I know at the Salt Mine, Bonfire can be a bit all over the place with his work schedule sometimes, since the weekend is not actually his weekend. So you might see some people from Running the Rift casting with me on the Salt Mine. So I just want to make sure we're showing the love to everybody. So feel free to go to Running the Rift to watch a game through there. Get Salty Run Back too. We're all a family here with tier 3 coverage here. So
Mad Magical's the only one we haven't mentioned. He'll be covering some as well. He has not yet snagged games on our shared sheet, so we'll see. He's slacking, but I'm sure he'll be on some games as well. At the very least, those 4 organizations, the 3 podcasts plus Aegis, will have the 4 games covered, and then Magical will be there for a little bit of redundancy on one of those to make sure we got every angle.
True.
Yeah. So that's gonna be awesome. So while we're talking about OQs, this is the perfect time to get into Aegis time. chat about the ACL. We played week number 1 of the ACL in. This isn't unprecedented, but it's disappointing. It's classic winter split stuff, as everybody's trying to figure out. We are down 2 teams versus our original proposal. We have replaced one of them. So Morningstar White, unfortunately, appear to have dissolved or at least pulled out of events for this split. So they pulled out of the open qualifier at the kind of at the last minute there. That's how. What was the team?
Bethany Esports.
Well, who was the team that got added to OQs?
Pick me Galio.
Misfortune, I think it was.
No.
Misfits. The Misfits.
Misfits.
Yes.
Yeah, Misfits.
So the Misfits got added to OQs for that reason because Morningstar White pulled out. They also pulled out of Aegis. We have not replaced them for Aegis yet. We'll see what goes on there, but they've been given a forfeit. A forfeit win was given over to California Irvine. That is why we had to change what the featured match was last week. And then Mirage Rookies also pulled out after losing a few players. So we have replaced them with Bethany Esports.
Sorry to interrupt. I'm looking on the sheet. I think Morningstar White have been replaced.
Oh?
No, really?
By Polestar Academy.
This literally happened as we were recording. I had this open earlier.
Which is kind of a fun team. I mean, it's where Sajay Wabe ended up. Flaucon is on that team as well, who played really well for CCG and plays with Bradley for Swiss, so he's really good. Sajay Wabe and Abi are in the bottom lane. Diesel's up top. So, I mean, hey, that's a pretty good replacement.
Yeah.
Shout out Polestar for...
Didn't they get 2-3 in OQs? I think it was 2-3.
Yeah, with their main roster, which I think only shares Diesel. If even that.
Yeah.
Diesel, yep.
Is Diesel on? No, they have Shocky on their main roster now.
Shocky, yeah. That's really important.
Okay.
Oh, but Diesel was on Mirage Rookies.
Diesel was on the OQ.
Yeah.
But he was on another team, okay.
Yeah. Well, technically, was it Sage Wabe, Sage Wave also on Mirage Rookies?
Yes. So it looks like they just kind of picked up that roster and made some changes. They got X-Royal in there too, which is hype.
Yeah. I was looking while you were talking, I was like, wait a minute, they replaced them with somebody in the standings. I saw Polestar Academy. I'm like,
it's important to point out that if this happened just now, you can blame Flay because we didn't know. It's all on Flay.
Cool.
Just in case.
It seems like the only team that hasn't been replaced yet is. Oh, did we?
Everybody's been
hyped.
Everybody's been replaced. Then we're back to 28 teams.
Oh,
because
I thought the Wiglets weren't in.
No, the Wiglets are in.
Oh, why did I think the Wiglets weren't playing anymore? Okay,
I don't know. The Wiglets played last week. They lost 1-2 to
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah.
So I think
which that is didn't see that one coming.
Did not. That would have been an upset on my book. We'll get into individual games in a second. Did also want to call out. So Mirage Rookies pulled out. We got Bethany Esports in as well, featuring world semifinalist jungler Amazing. So just rack those up on the ACL pedigree boards, baby. We don't have to talk about maybe some recent OQ performances of that squad. We could just stamp that up there, get real hype. We got more former pros in ACL. Always love to see it.
Yeah, we've evolved, baby.
Even better.
We went from counting how many LCS players we have on our hands. Pfft, screw that. Now we're counting international performers.
We are. What's that?
Surely that guy performed well.
I mean, I
think it's the third Worlds player.
He's not even our first one. Is he our first Worlds player? Yeah.
I don't think so.
I think so.
No, because we had. Well,
Ardog never played Worlds.
Nope.
No, we had. I think it was.
Neo
Isles.
never played Worlds. Oh, Isles.
Isles technically played
Isles,
Worlds.
Yeah. Wait.
Oh, did he? Wait, did he?
Yes. He went for Osh once, I believe.
Yeah, he went with Direwolves, I think it was. Or
I thought it was.
I think it was
Legacy Esports.
Oh wait, no, Legacy. Yeah, it could have been
Legacy.
Legacy.
Oh, it was Legacy. Yeah, it was Legacy.
So technically, he was in Worlds.
He did. He went to Worlds 2020.
All right, we've evolved to Worlds knockout stage.
Yeah. What was that?
We've evolved to Worlds knockout stage.
Yeah. What did you say, TDS?
I was thinking, did Mike Young go with TSM to Worlds or did he not?
No. He did go with Phoenix 1 to Battle of the Atlantic.
So
where we shit on Europe. So he's
well,
played
it's
international.
Technically Rift Rivals.
He's shit on his fair share of LEC teams. back when they were EU LCS.
Good old days.
So we'll count that too. I mean, give Mike Young credit for that. He
Yeah, I
deserves it.
think that's fair.
There's very few North American players who can say they went international and shit on EU. So, Mike Young deserves all the
That's
love
true.
that Contracts and Palafox and the NRG boys are getting. Mike Young deserves that too, dude. He did it first.
Yep.
Well,
He was the first
yes.
one there.
Yes, yeah. We don't need to get that debate.
He did,
I'm sure
he did it
ACL
earlier. He
talk
wasn't
about.
the first ever to do it, but he was.
He did it
But
earlier,
there's-
and
yeah.
the bar was definitely lower compared to what I would quantify with that G2 roster NRG doing. But
There was an earlier. This was an earlier era when NA was more competitive. We were on top more frequently at that time than we are these days.
Good old times.
Good old times.
well, I mean, no, that's gonna start a whole other debate. I'm not gonna say it. Let's stick on track here with the ACL. I don't need to go internationally.
Anyway.
I don't international.
Anyway,
talk.
we're up to 2 former TSM junglers in ACL currently. 3 former TSM junglers in ACL historically, if you count Dardoch as well.
True. Yep.
Yeah.
Let's go, baby. We're racking them up. Let's see how long until we can get the odd one and Santorin in here. Then, I don't
Well,
know.
Centurion did retire, so maybe he goes back to college.
Sure.
The odd one has
So
been
it's the odd
retired
one.
forever.
So it's Svenskeren. We can round them all out. We can
Yeah,
get
but
them.
the other one was a while. Well, we did talk with Spence Karen at one point, so like, yeah.
We'll be good. You see, he's still coaching. He's coaching Mirage. When
Yep.
Mirage gets relegated and come back to ACL.
Hey, look at him running ACL.
Oh man, we're never getting another interview with Normology. He's so fucking sick of my
That's true.
shit. Anyway,
Uh,
let's get into ACL.
yeah.
All right. Talking about last week, let's start off with Demacia. Cerulean's Kittens 2-0 Team Fish Taco. We'll loop back to that. That's probably the big discussion point. Gravity 2-1 over Next Level Esports. Abandoned Kittens 2-0 over 5 seasons.
Crossplay. That's a
Uh,
crossplay match.
The crossplay match, that was the crossplay match. Abandoned Kittens 5 seasons.
Yeah.
Interstellar Yappers Boing Boing was supposed to happen. Didn't happen yet. So
are we gonna go by group or I
yeah, we
assume,
can.
and
Yeah,
then-
let's chat about.
okay.
Yeah, let's chat
Yeah.
about that Cerulean Kittens Team Fish Taco matchup. I think that's the big upset. You were not live viewing, but you were reviewing this VOD on stream yesterday, Slayer.
Yes.
What went down there? I mean, I saw like there was definitely a Smolder comp coming online with a pretty
Yeah.
pretty even mid game. I already knew that Cerulean Kittens won the series, but I tuned in for a bit. I saw mid game, game 1, Smolder's scaling, and the game is even, and I'm like, oh, I guess Cerulean Kittens win.
Yeah.
Is that how it played out?
I mean, this series was kind of enthralled. I'm going to label it enthralled revenge tour because I know he did not start for Polestar this time round. I know he went to the bench instead for OQs. And I thought a lot of people lost some stock on enthralled. Yeah, the dude just kind of. So the worst part about this and what I said on stream is I kind of wish this wasn't a week 1 game because I don't think Team Fish Taco were that proactively invested in winning this series, if that makes sense. They just seemed like they were playing kind of sloppy. They had early game leads in both games, especially game number 1. They had like Drake stack count going their way, up like 4K gold at 20 minutes. 5 of 6 grubs with a comp that like really lended itself towards side lane pressure. And they kind of just kept taking wacko fights and getting caught occasionally. And they just kind of let a Smolder get rolling, and then Enthralled ends the game like he started really hot. He went 5-1. They nerfed him down to 5-5. They killed him a bunch bot side with some really good Mazo plays on Sedge. And then they kind of just let him ramp back up, and he ends the game 14-6. So it was really just Cerulean's Kittens. Like, I want to give them credit because it's one thing to win games kind of handily. I think it shows a lot more against a team of, arguable qualifying NACL players if we're playing the Tony Top card. That you can come back against them and you can win this game. And Enthralled had a really good series. The Smolder game was really good. Game 2, it wasn't as bad of an early deficit, but they kind of got Oriana Nocturne on R1, R2 turn. Kind of just ran with that one. And Enthralled picked a really great Ziggs pick. They went into Callista Ash, and he just picked Ziggs. And, like, it's just like an easy way to neutralize that. Like you don't get to play the game much as Ash Kalista because you'll get poked out. Ziggs kind of neutralize any all in you have. And Enthrall, once again, just got to scale up and delete people from halfway across the screen with his ult when his Nautilus and Olaf and Nocturne and Orianna are all running in, and he just does a bajillion damage from off the screen. So I thought it was a really great series from Enthralled. I think Team Fish Taco would put up a lot more fight if they weren't so focused on, a very important Swiss stage that was less than 24 hours away from them.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest talking point. I like not taking anything away from Enthralled. I do think their team was looking like one of the better rosters in general when you're well not Enthralled, sorry. Korean Kittens was one of the better rosters when you look in general to the ACL. But like EFT, technically speaking, had higher chances to finish the Swiss stage in the group stage, right? And I'm pretty sure that's what they were betting on. Whereas I don't think Gorillas Kittens teams had that big of a focus on that in that sense, particularly because some of these players played on different rosters, right? Like Porsche played on the I think he played on the Lotus one, right? He was on Lotus, if I'm not wrong. Just to confirm Gordo, because I'm blanking on it. But
Yes, I think so, right?
I think yeah,
we cast
Porsche
a bunch
was
of
on
Porsche
Lotus's
games
roster.
over the weekend. That checks
Yeah,
out.
which is funny, but like I'm trying to remember. I think Porsche was on Lotus. Frost Forest is not on any team playing actively. He's as a sub, and the other three coach or sub. I remember he was on
both.
the
he's
or not
coach
on the
and sub
list.
on Lotus.
So yeah, he's not on the active player list. So like
no, he is.
This
he's
team,
on the sub list. That's how they kept their points.
Yeah, but not on the. I mean, more so on the. He's not actively
starter,
playing.
Yeah.
He's not on the. Yeah, he's not a starter. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So like, yes, the roster is strong, but the difference for the players is more so. One is a full team that is focused on the actual competition or on the actual Swiss stage. The other is much more so for the tournament. Their dedication is for the tournament, and I think that kind of takes away not only the pressure but also the focus that they are only on the tournament is much more focused on, or gives them even more focus for the tournament alone. And I think that helped. I agree with Slayer. I think this probably would have been a better matchup when everything already transpired with the Swiss stage or with the NACL OQs. Like that would have been a bit hyper in my opinion, or hyped in my opinion. Yeah.
I agree. All right, well, moving on to Noxus. So UCI takes a 2-0 forfeit over Polestar Academy, as Polestar Academy didn't exist yet at the time. That was a Morningstar White match. We talked about Abandoned Kittens 2 over 5 seasons of the cross group match, and then Vespa 2-1 over the Wiglets, which we talked about a bit earlier. That's a little bit of an upset in my mind. I think the Wiglets was one of the teams that we had pegged as like competing with Kosa Gamers potentially for that 4th seed out, assuming that Morningstar was in this group. Like, I think we all still decently high on 5 seasons, even though they lose their cross-group match to Abandoned Kittens. I still think I would have them over the bottom 4 teams. But, interesting, like, Vespa now kind of throws a wrench in there, that, like, even though we're not really familiar with these players, they probably deserve to be in the conversation if they're able to take down the Wiglets.
GS, do you know any of these guys? Like, I know we didn't have you on the last episode. Like, do you recognize? I don't know any of these Vespa players, and like I know Gorilla Jones and like, who am I blanking on?
Yeah, I know more on
Wiglets.
Well.
Like,
yeah,
I know more on Wiglets. I'm trying to look at the Vespa players.
HP Gamer, Desire, Harrison TT, Camper on Duty, and Songjae, it looks like.
Yeah, I think maybe Desire and HP Gamer. I do have a vague recognition of seeing those names before, but like, not that anything jumps in my mind or anything that I can say, wow, these players were great. But like, this comes as a surprise as well.
Yeah,
I even have Vespa really low in my standings when thinking about the teams coming into the season. So that's a big surprise to see how they got a game against players that I do actually know.
Yeah. Checking the drafts. I see they played a Draven game. They played a Draven Blitzcrank bot with a Garen top 1 game. That's pretty aggressive. So, yeah, I don't know. Vespa, a team to keep your eyes on.
Yeah.
We haven't seen the game. We don't have the VOD. So we will just be keeping our eyes peeled as the season goes on for those guys. Let's jump over to Piltover. So in Piltover, Maryville B team and Bethany are rescheduled as Bethany just joined the league. Capachungus take a 2-0 over the Pack. Chaotic Solar take a 2-1 over Zora. And in the cross group, Clown Gaming take a 2-0 over CCG, who
roster is a mess.
Yeah, whose roster is.
I don't even know who. I don't even know who played that game. Like
I saw, is it official on here? I want to check this really quick. CCG are still CCG on this sheet. I saw on the wiki they are listed as CCG Futures, so I wonder if they're making that branding shift. Because this is not the CCG roster in the OQs. This is not the Crimson Yukino Bradley roster. This is a more developmental focused team. Yeah, but so here's the
developmental players.
So here we go. We'll talk more about them in a second because this is the group where our featured match next week is going to be. Our featured match is going to be Chaotic Solar versus Capachungus, the two teams that have won. TDS, you were not here last week. Are you one of the people who rated Capachungus highly?
I don't.
Like, do you have your committee rankings? Yeah, did you put a question mark? Because we determined.
Yeah, we figured this out because we don't know who. So somebody must have rated Capachungus
like a C.
Like a C, because they were in that D tier. Like they were in the second lowest tier, not the lowest tier, and nobody knew who these guys were. So somebody must have known them and must have rated them higher.
What is the Capachungus? It's Cap?
Yes, it's Cap. Cap is there.
Okay, I straight up, I put them F.
So did everybody.
That's the most TDS. Yeah, I knew TDS was gonna just like, unless he knew these players.
Anyway, well, whoever believed in them was cooking something because they 2-0 the Pack in their first matchup. So that's already a better start than I think most of us gave them credit for. I mean, the Pack was in that tier too, but I wouldn't have. I would have pegged Capachungus as the number 28 seed if we were doing 1st through 28th the way that OQs does. And they already come up with a win. They take down the Pack. And then Chaotic Solar showing up, putting up a pretty good showing over Zora Esports, who we gave credit to last time for having Shawnatonen as coach. And
I don't know if they do though. I'm looking on the roster and their team
I don't think they have any more. I think it was only for OQ, maybe?
No, because they weren't in OQs. And Sean is definitely...
Yeah, they were.
No,
Zora
was in OQs.
Oh.
Yeah, Zora was in OQs.
They end up 1-4. They end up 1-4, yeah, because of the FF from... What was his name? Yeah, from Figmigalio.
Oh, well.
But, like, they were there. They were pretty much the Undisputed 31 team, I would say.
30. I think they were 30 because they played CCG off rip. And CCG is third.
Here, we're going to go...
Yeah,
Shawnatonen. He still has the Zora Esports tag in the Discord.
Okay.
So
well, then it might just be a shoot thing.
And he was their like team lead. He like checked in for them on the group draw and stuff.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And he DM'd me about it too. So I'm pretty sure unless something happened, he's still their coach.
Okay.
Either way, enough about him. Like Marios is a player we were familiar with as well. I don't know if Super Big Ego played, but he's a player I recognize as well. But Chaotic Solar do pretty good. They show up. They take down the win. Neversaw was kind enough to correct me that they had not played previously with this team, even though I thought they had. Yeah, but pretty solid showing from them. So now we get 2 1-0 teams to start things off for our featured match of the next week. So that'll be interesting to check out. I really want to see how they are going to end up performing.
Yeah, Neversaw, shout out. Interesting. I was just gonna say shout out Neversaw because he was in the chat when I was reviewing the other series. Oh, sorry. My apologies. Neversaw. She was in the chat watching. She had a lot of she informed me on a lot of things as the Heartstuck Emerald player I am that I did not know while watching the VOD, and she expressed that this was her first time kind of playing anything competitive. So
yeah,
she seems very eager to learn and perform. So.
Makes sense with the fact that we don't know much about their team.
Yes,
I do think Verticality, one of the players that I do have a slight recollection of, so could be a roster that maybe surprised more than we were. Jaber as well. So Jaber and Verticality are two players that I do remember a bit more. So it could be much more hype than I was expecting initially, and I want to see what they are able to achieve. If they end up anywhere higher than 4th, I think that's already a big, like, achievement for their team.
Yeah.
I mean, if they make playoffs, I would call that an achievement right off rip.
Fair enough.
Sure. And I think like we talked about this last week too. Like I think this group's wide open after Maryville.
Yeah.
Especially
Well,
with
especially now.
Yeah, especially now with Bethany
Exactly.
coming in as well. Like I think I'm pretty high on Clown Gaming as well. Like I think Boil the Oil, Rapid, Zev have shown it before, Cryogen as well. A lot of them have played together before, and I was impressed with Rough Beans in the Hot Pockets Invitational. So I'm pretty high on Clown. And I think they showed it with their 2 over CCG. So I think Clown and Maryville are probably making it out, but I think the other 2 slots are up for grabs. And this Capuchungus versus Chaotic Solar matchup might be one of the things that has really big implications for it.
True.
So that'll be a fun one. That's your update there. Maryville versus Bethany, the Collegiate Showdown, has not taken place. Let's move over to our big CLOL group, which is Zaun. And this is also where our featured match last week was played. So MSU A-Team take a 2-0 over Briarcliff. BlackRock Esports in the featured match take a 2-0 over Aporia. And University of South Florida take a 2-0 over Glacial Esports. So a rough start for our Risen Mythical League boys.
So I'm kind of curious with one thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm watching the shit quickly. Is Salthate out of BlackRock?
No, he is in BlackRock. He was an E-sub last week, and now he is officially on the roster starting this week.
Okay.
And I think the sheet just hasn't been updated. I saw he was added to the roster sheet.
Yeah, that is an important difference, because I believe both Gordo and I can agree that Salthate was the best performer pretty much in that match. Like, he completely annihilated like a moss.
Yeah.
So adding him is the most ideal outcome there.
Yeah, that was that awkward thing as well, where like BlackRock had to E-sub in Zalt, and Aporia had to E-sub in. Oh, I feel bad. I'm forgetting their E-sub support's name. I will check it in a second.
I'm actually blanking on him as well. Because they had Nitro, no?
Yeah, it was DDoS.
Okay, yeah, DDoS.
Yeah. So both teams lost a ban. You would think they could just handshake that and lose no bans, but who am I to criticize Flay's rulebook?
We should, but we won't.
So that was a super interesting series actually, because they played against each other. BlackRock slammed them, and then in the OQ the next day, those 2 rosters effectively played against each other again, because BlackRock opened up their first series versus Phoenix 5, and Phoenix 5 was the shorter race like a Moss Detro team, which is basically the same roster as Aporia and ACL, and they actually won in the Swiss stage, despite getting 2-0 the previous night. So that was a fun grudge match for the Aporia squad. They did not end up making top 5, so I think maybe you would have, or top 16. So perhaps you would have preferred to have won over BlackRock, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. They get a little bit of pride back, and definitely will be a contender to look for in Zaun going forward. But that was definitely a fun series to check out. I mean, BlackRock, I agree, Zalt looked great, and I believe he is going to be their mid laner going forward. So potential, I mean, I would say favorites to top this group now that they get the win over Aporia, which is super big. I mean, that's a really solid way to get an easy round 1 matchup, go on to round 2. Now you're already like locked in top 12, get some good competition going forward. Sushi really impressed me as well, and as both of them being like relatively fresh players who are still developing, I'm kind of getting excited for BlackRock. I think this will be a really fun season to watch them and see how they progress as they get more experience under their belts.
Certainly would have been more fun with the other roster from the first Swiss OQ, but hey, I'm glad that they've rebounded at least, because we I think we can even reference this ACL to see that some rosters from OQ have completely disappeared. And they did not completely disappear. So I mean, I didn't really want to say too much about this group because you guys obviously casted the series. Just cool to see that the old Gordo, you know it as well as I do when we made that one power rank all the time ago. But I always give onus to CLOL teams when ranking preseason. Like I give them a little bit of buff. It's like they play together. They probably play in a nice facility, or they might play in a nice facility. So we'll give them a little bit of buff. They both 2-0'd their opponents.
To
MSU
be fair, one of them
and,
2-0'd another CLOL
USF.
team, so I think that's a wash.
Wait,
Briarcliff is a college
Briarcliff?
too.
Oh,
Briarcliff is a college, yep.
Well, you know what? That's that Alienware sponsorship coming through from MSU. Okay,
Fair.
if you haven't seen it, they have an Alienware sponsored esports like room, and like PCs and like everything.
It's true.
All in
Convenient.
MSU colors. Yeah,
Okay,
I think it's the most
convenient.
expensive esports facility in the country right now.
Nice.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wish they sponsored me or something like that. That would
Yeah, I
be
was gonna
really
say, I
useful.
could put that money to use in esports for sure.
Hey, I mean,
Uh,
I don't know how they're doing in CLOL, but it's holding up in ACL real well.
True. Yeah. Rough start for our boys, Glacial. I know Slayer and I are gonna have a soft spot for them as they're coming in from as Risen Divine League long term guys. We talked about it last week, though. It's tough to make that jump from being successful in the Masters GM level to coming and playing in Uncapped. And University of South Florida come out of the gate swinging. They take them down in a pretty convincing 2-0. So rough start. I mean, this is a pretty wide open group as well. Like CCG's rosters in constant flux. MSU and Briarcliff. You know, they're also collegiate teams. They're not like the top of the table rank wise. They should be somewhat beatable, but yeah, I mean, getting their welcome to ACL match out of the way early there for Glacial. Hope they're going to be able to level up from this experience.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't have much to talk about Glacial, so like the only thing I can say is, well, actually, I think I saw them once in Victorious, so like I have a bit of background with them, but like that was not this level. It was a bit behind the challengers level, so certainly going to have a bit more trouble. And also, slight information or TDS random info. I actually worked for them way before when I was starting as an analyst for one of their teams for Glacial Org.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I do have a bit of info on them.
There you go. You
But
got
that
a
was
little.
way
We
too
all have
long
a
ago.
special place for Glacial in our hearts.
Well, you know what's funny is we're playing the Risen Stonks heartstrings here, Gordo. Current Risen champs CCG, because they're on the roster of CCG still, are going to play Divine Sweethearts Glacial Esports next week. And I quite literally don't know who's going to win that series, mainly because I don't know what the CCG roster is supposed to be.
Yeah. I think I probably lean towards CCG. I mean, the players they got,
too.
like St. Ghoul has made like some solid runs in OQs. Like Phi Mini, I can see his GM right now. Like there's guys to put some faith in here, but we'll see. We'll have to see.
Just wanted to meme on that one a little bit
Yeah.
before things wrap up.
Want to believe in it as well. So yeah, definitely. Hopefully we get some more. I mean, hopefully either Slayer gets more VODs to do more stream reviews, or more teams do their own independent streams coming into week number 2. Either way, or both, you know. So hopefully we can get a few more streamed matches going. TDS and I, like we said, will be on stream Friday evening. The spectate bug is fixed, so we'll be actually specking live now. So that's hype. We will be covering, as I said, Capuchungus taking on Chaotic Solar in the featured match of the week. But that's going to do it for the Salt Mine this week. Thank you all for staying tuned. Come hang out with us this weekend, whether it be on the Aegis stream, whether it be on the Salt Mine stream, whether it be on Magical stream, or Running the Rift stream, or Salty Runback stream. Take your pick, whatever match you want to watch.
There's a lot.
Yeah, come watch.
Go between them all.
Come
They're all
watch
going at the
and
same
have
time.
the
Player
NACL
streams,
and have the
technically.
NACL on another monitor. Watch everything. Watch everything.
If you don't have 6 tabs open, stop listening to our podcast. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah. And have our podcast open on a 7th tab, please.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Get them all in
all
there.
with audio on. I want you overstimulated. I want you to be listening to 7 audio tracks at once.
Yeah. That's the strap. But either, I don't know, watch whatever you want to watch, but know that they're all going to be there and that you have a lot of options. So, going to be a whole bunch of fun. Going to be a whole lot of casting League of Legends. I'm casted 4 days in a row now, so that'll be a lot of fun. Hope to see some of you guys around. And until next time, we'll be back next week with more NACL news, more ACL news. We'll see you there.